Welcome to today's webinar. We have, I just had somebody that wanted to present, viewer number 48, I'm sorry. Again, Heidi and I have a lot of words to use. So we are sharing your referendum to-do list for social media. Again, please introduce yourself. We've got people from New York, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Kansas, Oregon, North Carolina, Ohio, Trinidad, Transylvania, Alabama Christian, which I'm assuming is obviously in Alabama. We've got people from all over the country. I'm coming at you right now from Wisconsin, and so is Heidi, actually. We know that referendum, bond issues, there's different laws in every state, but I think what we're going to give you today is going to be a proven kind of list of things that you need to think about when you use social media with your referendum. And Arkansas just joined. Yes, I love Arkansas. They're all my favorites. I can't pick one. Just a reminder, every slide that we use today is going to be sent to you along with a recording of this. And so I already pushed the record button. I didn't screw up on that. That recording will be sent to you. Now, within this slide deck, there's linkable slides that go to specific posts that you can use. So I love to take notes. That's how I learn better. So you can definitely take notes, but just know that you're going to get all the slides in the recording. If you're on Twitter, we'd love some Twitter love. I did Twitter Live today, tried it for the first time. You can laugh at that because I love, trying out new things. Tag at Andrea Gribble, hashtag social school for EDU. You can also at Heidi_Feller, right? That's your handle. So you can tag her as well. I forgot to add that. Forgive me on that, but you can also do that. So, just the fact that you're probably eating at your desk, right? Because everybody's busy. And this is over maybe your lunch hour, or maybe if you're in California, it's Pacific time, so maybe it's just you're grabbing your breakfast snack. We love a little picture of your computer screen or a selfie of learning because this information is to help all schools. Now, we always like to start with, you're in the right place if, okay, first of all, this is like your community, right? All the Lego people, and you're trying to communicate to them, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is really hard because it's, it's challenging. And now you're trying to use social media, and now we're going to throw a vote into it. So now we've got all these people to communicate, and we're asking for money or asking them to go to the polls. It can be challenging, and you can wonder, well, what is proven, what can work? And you've also got a lot of people telling you what you should be doing, right? Everybody thinks they're a social media expert. Oh, awesome. Stacy just passed a bond and levy in the beginning of August. It sounds like we are going to talk about today how to communicate after a vote that's successful as well today. So you are also in the right place. And then you're in the wrong place if you're like this guy and you're already on the top of the mountain and you have it all figured out. And there are some of you out there. I always think you can always learn, but you're probably in the wrong place if you think if you know everything there is to know about social media and referendum, bond stuff. You probably don't want to listen, or just listen to the recording. Most of you know me. I'm Andrea Gribble. I live in Woodbury, Minnesota. I've owned Social School for EDU since 2014. So every day I've been doing social media for schools for over 4.5 years. Our team has done over 200,000 posts. We've worked with over 70 school districts across the country, a lot of those in Wisconsin and Minnesota, but we're in Nebraska, we're in Ohio, we used to be in Wyoming. We can work with schools everywhere. I'm married, got an awesome husband and 6 kids. Yes, 6. I got 2 daughters, I got 4 stepsons, and I love it. They're great. And I'm a blogger, and obviously I'm a talker. I love to do all that. And Social School for EDU, the company we have, we just help schools create awesome social media. That's what we do. We know communication is bigger than that. Our bailiwick is social media, and our mission is really to help you celebrate students, connect communities. We want to connect and give a front row seat to the amazing things happening, and we truly believe social media, it's about celebrating your school one story at a time, one moment, one video. And in regards to a referendum, we're not giving them a pamphlet of all the information on your referendum in one post. We need to bite-sized nuggets, guys. Bite-sized nuggets is really key. For some reason, it's like I'm not thinking that my chat bar is updating. Oh, there it is. Okay, awesome. I've got my blog out there. I've got a monthly webinar like this one. I've got Facebook posts out there to help you. So that's great. And we do management of social media. We do coaching. We do graphics. They're customized for your school. And basically the whole premise of our company is you guys are busy educating students and dealing with all this stuff. We focus on telling your story. So before I introduce Heidi, just give you a little bit of background for Social School for EDU. 4.5 years ago, I didn't even know about school communications, but obviously I've learned a lot. And schools go to ballot, ask for money, whether it's for a building, whether it's for operational, whether it's for a levy, there's a lot of reasons that you have to go to ask your community members to support investing in the school. Now, we've had 27, 17 have passed. That's 63%. If you look across all referendums, passing rate is about around that percentage. So can we say that, oh my gosh, like we know everything? Well, there's a lot that goes into referendum bond campaigns. One being that you understand your community and you understand what they'll support before you ever even ask them. We have been a part of several campaigns that they were asking for almost $200 million that wasn't supported. Well, of course, that's not going to be passed. And guess what? Nothing that we could do on social media would change that path. So if you are in that realm of, hey, we're asking for stuff, but we haven't really done the research, and so we don't even know what our community supports, you get a failed one, well, that's the reason, because you maybe didn't do the homework on the first side. Or on the front side. I will say that the first time we failed a referendum, like I was up all night, like watching the results, and I felt like, oh my gosh, this school's gonna fire me. Like we didn't pass it, and so I felt like that whole weight was on my shoulders. It shouldn't be like that. I've learned that. Like we can help, but we're not gonna make the whole difference. But anyways, we do have 8 more going to ballot this November, and to deliver expertise on this topic, Heidi Feller, who is our Chief Inspirational Officer. She does so much for the schools we serve and beyond. I actually stole her from the district. We're going to see some examples from Reedsburg in Wisconsin. I helped them launch their social media, and as soon as I met her, I'm like, oh my God, I need her on my team. And of course, I usually get what I want. So she is on my team now. She's a mom of 2. And she's an educator and school PR. She works inside of a school, guys. She gets what you're dealing with on that realm. She's just going to kind of break it down because she is our resident expert. She works with all of our schools to really develop the strategy around referendums. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass the presentation role, and it says to Anne.
So you guys, thanks so much for joining us here today. I know that you are really busy because it's the beginning of the school year, right? It turns out I might be frozen. I hope I'm frozen at a good angle. At any rate, I am indeed the Chief Inspirational Officer for Social School for EDU. I'm the mother of 2 and a young man who just started high school yesterday. Sadly, though, we had to call school off in the middle of the day here in Reedsburg for our freshmen only. If you're paying attention to the news and you on your TV, you will know what we're dealing here with. It's pretty sad. And so hopefully we're going to be able to start our school year pretty soon, but we have some serious flooding issues. At any rate, mother of 2, I am a former educator. In a distant galaxy far, far away, I used to be a German teacher, and most recently, as Andrea said, I was embedded within a school district. I'm going to have the unique position of watching all of those pre-steps, let's just say, work through in our district in terms of increased communication, our survey go out for the referendum, et cetera, and then transitioned over to be Andrea's Chief Inspirational Officer and got to then look at our referendum from the outside. Because while Andrea did steal me away, don't worry, our superintendent got over it and hired us to do their social media. So I still get to have a little hand in that every single day. So without further ado, next slide. what is your social media checklist? This is what Andrea and I are going to do here for you today. It's a great checklist, and you'll find that a significant number of those items seemingly have nothing to do with social media and yet have everything to do with social media. So you're going to get all of that encompassed here. Number one, it is imperative that you have a strong social media presence already, right? You should be posting regularly. You should be celebrating and connecting, using your social media channels each and every day, right? And not missing the opportunity, as Andrea talked about at the beginning of this presentation, to tell your story one Facebook post at a time, one tweet at a time, one Instagram story at a time, whatever it is that you're using in terms of social media. So that is very, very important. How do you know? What are some ways that you can do that? Well, we're going to show you on the next slide. Miss Andrea is going to advance that. Awesome. So hopefully what you have is a very strong social media presence, that you've got a great profile image out there on all of your social media channels so that people know they've tuned into the right channel, that this is indeed the School District of Reedsburg or the School District of Piqua City in Ohio, or Cameron, that kind of thing. Are you posting on a regular basis? Are you posting, let's say, Motivational Monday posts? Are you celebrating those daily moments that happen all the time within a school building? What happened in kindergarten on the first day, right? How nervous those freshmen might be. And are you connecting with your alumni? A really awesome way to connect with your alumni, as you can see, there are some Throwback Thursday photos. And so post one of those out every Thursday. You would be shocked at the amount of time seemingly that alum will argue about whether that was 1976 or 1977. Needless to say, they're engaging with the page, right? And if they're engaging with the page and you're posting out on a regular basis and you're looking like in the lower right-hand corner, when are my folks on Facebook? That's one of the insights that you can see on your Facebook page. Do you know when people are on Facebook? Are you posting at those crucial times? If you're doing those types of things, you can see when you look at the analytics that you are indeed reaching a great number of people. In other words, that you're adding apples to the basket every single day. And here's a great example of showing how those apples get added up in the basket. On this next slide, you'll see this is an example of the social media report card that we do for our school districts every single quarter. But you can take a look at these things yourself on your own Facebook page in Insights, right? How many Facebook page likes do you have? How is that growing? Are you, when people are interacting with a post, are you going back in and inviting those people to like your page? Are you, which sounds kind of creepy, but actually it's a really, really effective tool. Are you interacting with all of the comments that are made, right? Maybe your interaction is to answer a question that was made in the comments. Maybe it's to reiterate what someone says. Like maybe you have a mom who says, we love Mrs. Jones. She's the best second grade teacher we have. Maybe you comment as the school district and say, we couldn't agree more. Our staff is amazing, that kind of thing. And then how many times are you posting out on Facebook, right? Are you being deliberate about that? What's your weekly reach? You can see that. Here's one from Monroe. This one was obviously, you can see from April to June, to reach more than 12,000 people a week. Using a communication tool is powerful stuff, folks. It really is. The numbers do not lie. So make sure that you have a strong social media presence. We obviously can help you with that through Andrea's blog, all the other things on our website. Clearly, the webinars that we do here, inviting people to like the page is one of the best tips they've gotten. I agree with you. It's amazing. It really is. So on to the next checklist item. Gather your troops. You need to gather all of the people who are going to help you attempt to pass your referendum or your bond under one roof, right? And one meeting, and hopefully it's not just one meeting, maybe it's many, many meetings, right? You need all of your admin team there. You need your communications people if you do have some, right? Perhaps you're working with a general contractor or an architect. You want to make sure those people are there. Maybe you want to invite your YES committee members, right? Those are folks who can take that just a little bit farther. You'll hear more about that in a second. But a little bit farther and sort of pushing the envelope. And of course, Social School for EDU is always here to help you with that. But you want to be sure that everyone is communicating the same pieces of information or similar at the same time. You need to have regular meetings. We did this in the School District of Reedsburg, and I have to tell you that it just drilled down again and again and again what each person's job was. And if everybody does their job and everybody helps each other out, and perhaps used as a piece of information that someone else maybe used in a different communication method, it actually does become manageable. Because I know that for many of you, you're like, referendum, where's my paper bag, right? But if you have a good plan going into it, you can put the paper bag away at least for a little while until the next thing, right? Next slide, Miss Andrea.
I'm trying to hit the space bar and then it's not working. So
I know, mine didn't work yesterday, a few days ago when I was checking it out either. It did work a few minutes ago though when I was looking at it.
I'm gonna say one thing quick before you go on to this, just so everybody knows. We're putting together a one-page handout for all of these this to-do list, and so if you don't get that today, which you actually won't get it today, but you will get it by next week. We're going to actually put this kind of packages up in a blog, a helpful blog that you can refer back to, and then it'll have that one-page PDF that'll just be these main points, which I think is always helpful. So just kind of as an FYI.
Yep. I did just see a question come across about a yes committee. We're going to talk today about what you can do on an official Facebook page, but including your yes committee in any of these pieces of information, any of these, you know, we're going to post this out tonight, that kind of thing. Those are the folks who can really take it the next mile. Find those enthusiastic people and let them run with it. But we're going to kind of stick to the facts here because I think most of us understand that really by law, we have to just give the facts. So that's what I'm going to concentrate on today, just so you know, but thanks for that question, Kevin. So the next thing you need to do is, of course, get a strategy, like I said, right? How are you going to impart this information? And obviously, this strategy is preceded by years and years, just the facts, Kevin, years and years and years, maybe, of work, right? So in the school district of Reedsburg, 3 years prior to this, we realized we needed to communicate in a much more effective way. And those bumping up of our communication strategy and adding those things to our toolbox included things like a brand new website, launching a district-wide social media presence and then tending to it on a regular basis, encouraging our teachers perhaps to jump into that social media pool so that the story is being told within a classroom page or something like that. We went to online newsletters. We made sure that then we were communicating when we needed to communicate directly about a super important piece of information. Maybe it was the day off of school, which is what happened yesterday, unfortunately, that it was done from one central location. So all of that background work was done. Then, of course, we sent out a community survey, and Andrea sort of alluded to that at the beginning, is that if you have a community survey that you have put out, you've used maybe somebody like School Perceptions or something like that, follow that result. Please pay attention to that. You're going to see a powerful slide in just a second, right? But in the interim, then, part of your strategy includes which direct mailings and or postcards will you be doing, right? What press releases will you be putting out? If you have a local newspaper, great, make sure they have that. What meetings do you guys have coming up? Maybe some open houses where you're showing what's going on in a building, right? Perhaps direct emails in the form of a newsletter or a direct email using your school district system, Skylar, Blackboard, whatever that might be. A powerful presence on your website. A whole other tab devoted just to the referendum so that all of that information can be put up there, because you never want to take like a 400-page, let's say, results from the community survey and put that out on Facebook or send it to people. You don't want to do that, but there are a few nosy folks who really want to know all of that. Put that on the website, right? And then it comes to social media. We want to talk about maybe posting 1 or 2 times a week. We'll get into that a little bit more. The key thing is here, layer, repeat. All of the same wheel with each of these tools, you're going to use the same information again and again and again, right? Andrea, next slide, please.
Yeah, and one thing, just again, what she said was social media posts 1 to 2 times a week. Heidi means 1 to 2 times a week about the referendum. Yeah, we're posting a lot more times in a day, even about general school stuff. But you want to kind of mix in this information about the referendum. We're going to call it referendum mostly because that's what we're used to in Wisconsin, but bond, levy, whatever you want to say.
Whatever you want to, and we'll talk about those 1 to 2 times a week and the other parts that go along with that Andrea just alluded to in a sec. This slide to me is really, really powerful. This came out of our community needs survey, and one of the follow-up questions that was asked, in addition to, hey, should we close this school? Do we need a new school? Do we need improved security measures? Would you support turf on our high school football field? It was a myriad of questions. This was the result of this question. How would you like to receive school or district information? Pay attention to this. This is unique to Reedsburg, but I'm sure is probably similar in many other districts, right? We are lucky enough to have 2 newspapers here in town. They are only weekly, but we are lucky enough to have them. But pay attention. Look at what people who didn't have a horse in the game is what I always say, aren't parents of somebody in the school district versus parents, how they want to be communicated with, right? And align yourself with that. You'll see on Facebook, 13% of people said who aren't parents, hey, we'd like to hear some more stuff on Facebook, whereas more than a third of parents wanted to hear about stuff on Facebook. Pay attention to those things and make sure that you're aligning your communication methods with exactly what folks have asked for. Just like you're going to align your referendum question with exactly what folks are going to ask for. This has become a science, and I didn't realize this until we really started delving into this. This is not shooting in the dark and asking for 5 million, 100, whatever it is the amount is. You know from your community survey what it is that people are generally willing to support. Next slide, Andrea. Awesome. So what are you going to use? Like maybe you have a press release. This is a press release that just went out from Lake Mills. They're going to referendum November 6th. Hopefully you've got somebody maybe put a press release together for you. If you're working with a third party, and increasingly, again, we're seeing that districts are, don't reinvent the wheel. Use this information, this press release that perhaps your architect came up with, right? And pull information from this. My suggestion would be never to post this in its entirety or as a PDF, as a post. It's not engaging. You want to break this down into usable pieces of information. Another place that you can put stuff, pull stuff from, of course, as I just mentioned, is the website. What you can't see on Waterloo School Districts on their header, because my little head is stuck maybe there, is that there's an actual referendum tab. And Waconia, who's also going, has some really powerful referendum information. And I will tell you that one way that I've seen school districts use that, back to the website just for a second, is when you get into people asking very specific questions underneath perhaps a social media post, directing them back to that actual page with the link really is helpful. Honestly, it is, because there are some people who really want to read every single detail. Otherwise, just make sure that you're updating that website always in a timely manner. Layer, layer, repeat, right? Maybe you've got some great newsletters. I know that we had some mailers and postcards and things like that that went out for the school district of Reedsburg. This was put together by PRA, by the architect we worked with. They have a very powerful sort of marketing team. And then we asked, and now do this with the other districts we work in, we asked for these graphics that you can see in its entirety in this really bad screenshot that I took of the mailer. We asked for them as individual JPEGs. And then we came up with a strategy of week 1, we're going to post this JPEG, maybe of that chart there, right? And then reiterating some short and sweet information up above that is easily digestible. So make sure that you're just using, reusing, layering, etc. Next item, branding is key. And your branding should have happened, as I mentioned before, long before you start with a referendum, but perhaps you are going to do something specific to the referendum. Your profile image should be strong. Perhaps you want to update that. That has something very specific to do with the referendum. P.S. Please change it back after the referendum is over. Not November 7th, not November 7th, right? Because you still want to remind people. You don't want to like wipe it from their memory, but please update, pay attention, right? Maybe you want to update a cover image, do some custom graphics. You want to, as I said before, grab those graphics from those mailers, those flyers, and those postcards. Reach out to your architect, your general contractor. They're happy to send you those things. Make sure that your website is updated. That includes all of that very up-to-date sort of branding information. We have some great examples on the next slide of what some of our school districts have done or are currently doing. So you can see in the upper right-hand corner, that actually was an updated profile image. So that was used on then Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Sometimes we'll put it on YouTube too. It depends on how active that district's YouTube channel is. The lower right-hand one was just done last week. Wisconsin Dells is going to referendum November 6th, and that is their updated cover image that you will find on their Facebook page. And I think it looks really great. It's really nice. It's got that strong branding. P.S. That branding, just so you're aware, the part of that Connect, Inspire, Achieve, everyone, every day actually came from C.G. Schmidt. So we're not reinventing the wheel here, peeps. If it weren't for copy and paste, I wouldn't have a job, right, Andrea? And then when you're getting ready to do some referendum posts, perhaps you have a specific JPEG that goes along with it that you've received, or you've made up yourself a chart or something like that that you're using elsewhere in other communication methods. And maybe it's just a general graphic, as you're seeing in the lower left-hand corner. That was for Chippewa Falls. And then they had a general graphic, and they would add different information in that red part using Canva, C.G. Schmidt, or something like that. And then, of course, I love the vote one that was done for Adams Friendship. They went to Referendum last spring. So
I just got a couple things to add, and we got one question out there that says you shared templates. So I need you to just be more descriptive of what you're asking. But one thing is you know, when Heidi on this last slide talked about please update your profile image and then afterwards update it. So we were just talking with the school district. I talk with school districts all the time about their social media, and it was like, when was your vote? Because your cover image and your profile image, and it was like in 2016. So 2 years ago, but nobody had updated it. And there's so many times that social media is only used when they're going to vote, and so then afterwards, and they don't post anything. Do not do that. Next thing, you can see how we're saying vote. We're not saying vote yes, but when you symbolize that check mark, right, that's, you know, maybe some subconscious of, yeah, we want you to check the vote yes, but we cannot say vote yes, all right? The viewer 38 asked for templates and or current dimensions for those profile pics. So we have a graphic designer that creates these that could customize them for your district. We can definitely send out what we recommend for a Facebook cover image size, like that Wisconsin Dells one. Facebook, just an update, which we recommend just do a square, because then you can use it on Instagram as well. So we will share graphic image sizes as well. But great questions. But these will give you a lot of ideas to then, you know, hopefully customize to yours. And if you don't have a graphic designer, oh my gosh, we have an awesome package, $600. You get 5 different customized images, and it could be stuff that you could then update, like the one in the lower left-hand corner for Chippewa. So.
Yeah, they aren't just for the, like I said, that package really works well, and our graphic designer is slick. She's so good, and it just takes everything you have to the next level. All right, next to-do item, just the facts, ma'am, right? Just the facts. You're a detective, right? So you want to make sure that on social media, as elsewhere, you guys are aware of this, that you're only allowed to just give facts, right? You are not allowed to sway a vote. That's what your yes committee can do. They can share out those Facebook posts, or, you know, start another campaign, or head to the streets. They can do that, but we can't do that. First of all, I highly recommend that you start with a ballot question as a Facebook post, right? You want to show exactly what that ballot question is so that folks have time to sort of digest that information. Next, when you're doing it, you want some brief FAQs, brief information. Please use simple and clear language. If you cannot understand it, and we worked in one district, if the only person who can understand what you think you're going to post on Facebook, let's say, is your business officer, God bless him or her, then you're in trouble. Because if I don't understand it, and I was a humanities major, so I don't deal in numbers anyway, but if you don't understand it, nobody else is going to either. Stop trying to trick people. You have to back the language up, right? You have to. You must think about the level at which your taxpayers read. And you a former, like, was written at a 7th or 8th grade level, and they even say that's too old, right? And that, like, for healthcare, they're always trying to work on, I have a friend who works in healthcare, trying to work on making sure that their documents, when you come to a doctor's visit, are easily understandable, and they're actually writing them more at a 4th or a 5th grade level. So be brief. Strip anything confusing out of there. There's an example there on the right-hand side, and again, that JPEG was pulled from a mailer. So people are seeing the same pieces of information over and over and over again. It takes people a long time to understand stuff. You have to hear things a number of times before it really sinks in, right? Use the exact wording that perhaps the folks you're working with Again, your architect, your builder, your other admin team members, whoever it might be, use that exact wording. Don't ever change the wording. If anybody ever wants to know what happens when you change the wording, you can go ahead and tweet me later on. I'll be happy to tell you. It involved a lot of crying on my part, and I was fairly certain that was my last day at work. Turns out it wasn't, because I'm still here using words. And then last but not least, and what I mentioned at the beginning of the slide, is you must avoid persuasive wording. It's just the facts. So take a look at it and make sure that that is all that you are doing. Yes? Next. Use these powerful graphics. So this is something that happens to be on Waconia's website right now. This stuff doesn't lie. This is a great Facebook post, just so you know. If they have this in JPEG form, and then they use that since 1990, enrollment has been more than tripled, maybe it's a header, a leader in there that says, you know, why are we going to referendum? Why are we going to levy? Well, since 1990, enrollment has more than tripled as families move here for the great schools and quality of life. You can't lie with that. You can't, you know what I mean? And you can't refute that information there. So be sure to use that. That sits on their website, right? So then if people go back to the website after they've looked at the Facebook post, they're seeing the exact same information. Here's another great example, right? Again, why are we going to referendum? It's one of the only school districts in our area without a voter-approved operating levy. Those are the facts, Pete. That's it, right there, exactly. All right, Miss Andrea. Get creative. So this is the part I love, right? Because I clearly have a lot of words to use, and I don't really want to just use the facts that I was forced to. So now's the time to get creative. So we have some great ideas on this, and this is the part that I want you guys to remember as we're going in talking about this, is that it's still just business as usual. That's actually my next checklist item. We'll get back to that in a minute. But you should be posting and celebrating on a regular basis on all of your social media channels, right? You're adding apples to the basket with every single social media post you do. Every single time you celebrate your students, your staff, you show your community just how valuable the education is in your community, right? And then when you go to referendum, now you got to take a few apples out of that basket, right? That kind of thing. So get creative. How can we get creative? Short videos, not long videos. How many of you have ever watched a video that was 14 minutes long on Facebook? I'm sorry to all the music teachers. I say it in every district we launch. I love you, music teachers. Please don't post all 4 hours. No one wants to watch it, not even you. Okay? Keep your videos short. We recommend between 2 and 3 minutes, right? Harness the power of Facebook Live, right? It's a little bit like the Wild West, but once you get the handle of it, it works super slick, right? Give out meeting reminders. If you have upcoming, like I said before, open houses or meeting reminders, be sure to get that out in a Facebook post. Again, 1 to 2 times a week about the referendum. The rest is business as usual, but that's super important, right? Podcasts. That's a great idea. Chippewa Falls did that. Somebody just came up with this idea. This was Sarah from C.G. Schmidt with Wisconsin Dells. We are now going to do Twitter Tuesday and Facebook Friday. How genius is that? Also, for the OCD in me, I like it when I have like clear rules. Woo, I have to tweet on Tuesdays, right? Or I'm going to post about the referendum on Facebook on Friday, that kind of thing. Those are really great ideas. And then don't forget about Instagram, but be sure to tailor that on Instagram. Most of the time, those are your high school students and your recent alums. So remember, some of them can vote. Remind them to vote, right? And also your younger parents. Here are some awesome ideas. This is great. And you definitely, this is a clickable link. You're definitely going to want to go over and do this. This is my former boss and a dear friend of mine, Tom Benson. So he is standing in front of, we decided to do some videos, short videos. We did 4 of them last fall. And each of those 4 videos had something very specific to do with a talking point or something we were asking for in the referendum. We chose to do one of our videos in front of Reedsburg Area High School. No, toilet paper is not normally out front in this building. It happened to be homecoming, but we chose to do that because the loan on the high school was retiring, and we were in a very unique position that if we asked for this money for a new building, there would be virtually 0 tax impact. People don't really understand what that means, so you got to help them. So we did these videos. We did add closed captioning to them. We used rev.com because 80-some% of videos on Facebook are watched without the sound, you know, in the dark when you're not supposed to be on your phone. But they had really great interaction. It made the things that we were talking about for the referendum and the points that we were driving home and the questions we were asking, it made them very relatable. It made Tom very human. He is human, but nobody thinks he is, right? It's a superintendent. No one is more hated on any given day in a district than this poor superintendent, right? And it really, really, really helped out. Yes, we did add closed captioning using rev.com and then posted it natively to Facebook. This is a complete aside. We did put these videos on YouTube afterwards, on our YouTube channel, but to put a YouTube link onto Facebook is not going to see very much reach. YouTube and Facebook must have dated in high school and they had a bad breakup. They're still not talking. You guys, you know how that goes. So it is our recommendation, if at all possible, that you post natively to Facebook and then go ahead and upload that video to YouTube as well. Many times when you have your website and you're doing website updates, it's much easier to add that YouTube link so that this video sat on our website as well than trying to upload the video natively to your website. That's just a tip or a trick.
And one thing that I'm going to say is you will want to watch this video. Audio, I think the wind was blowing. I just wanted to share, both Heidi and I have purchased this. There's like $50 on Amazon. It's a wireless mic that plugs right into your smartphone. And it just, a little adaptation, and then the person holds it and then they have a microphone, or they could clip it on. It really helps with the sound quality, and it's $50. So, I know that budgets are tight, but that is something as far as that microphone goes that I am going to send out with the follow-up information.
I would say that and the tripod, because so just so you guys know, go watch this video. That was before we knew any of that. Now we know it. It was still, there it is. It was still very, very effective, but would have been much more effective had we had that microphone. Our communications person uses that microphone now in our district for all of her live updates, and it works super slick. Very, very easy. If I can figure it out, anybody can, right?
And the tripod's like $15.
Yeah, so. Best money I ever spent, seriously. What's another really great idea? So Heidi Taylor Eliopis at Chippewa Falls School District did some podcasts. And she did a weekly podcast that talked about a specific talking point, just like Tom did in Reedsburg, right? And Heidi did this other really great thing. At the beginning of each of her videos, she reiterated that, hey, we're headed to referendum, and we're asking for this, which aligns with what you all said in the community needs survey. Every single time she had that sentence or those sentences in there to remind folks, hey guys, remember, you already weighed in on this and you said you would support it, right? Very great idea. And you want to watch everything from her. Search it under post on Chippewa Falls. Sheisthebomb.com, right? Another awesome idea, and I'm actually going to let Andrea talk a little bit more about this one because I wasn't on board, and now I understand more now, but Andrea knew exactly how these guys did this in Hayward with Craig. Can you tell me?
Yeah. So you guys know that it's difficult to get people into your buildings for open house information, right? So you can organize these events and you still only have 5 people there. So Hayward decided, hey, let's do a referendum discussion live on Facebook with real questions coming in. Is it kind of scary? Yes, because people could have come up with a lot of different things, but they promoted it ahead of time. In one of them, they actually gave out some water bottles, like Hayward Like a Cane water bottles. Yeah, they did it in this one, because if you asked a question, then they did a drawing. I watched this presentation from an hour and 15 minutes away, and there was over 100 people on live. You guys, there was over 100 people on live. You can't get over 100 people in to your school for a meeting like this. They took a very energetic, I think she's a 4th grade teacher who acted as kind of a moderator. And then Craig is there in the red, and he's the superintendent, and he answered the questions. They gathered questions ahead of time, so people were able to submit them through email. And they worked with those, and then they also got comments in with more questions, which sometimes were repeat questions. But this went on for about an hour. They had a live discussion for an hour. So sometimes there was repeat questions, so Craig might have said, I think we already covered that, so go back and listen. But just a ton of reach, just reached over 13,000 people. This is powerful. Again, can be challenging if somebody gets on there and is negative, right? It can be tough. Somebody asked, how do we prevent live talk videos from being considered promotional or promoting a position on a referendum? These seem promotional. They're just talking about why are we going to referendum? Why are we why are we even asking you for money? Well, this is how we got there. This is what we need. This is what you're voting on. So you can definitely be giving the facts and saying why we're asking for this without telling them that's why you need to vote yes. But there is a fine line, so you have to be careful. But you know, from the school standpoint, this is why we're bringing this to you, because we have these needs and because we don't have the funds to support them. And so you get to exercise your right to vote, and you can just as easily say no as you can say yes. But we have to get the information out there. So that's a great question, viewer number 56. But this was really effective for Hayward. You know, whether you'd want to use this or not. But I really think these discussions are important, whether they happen on Facebook or off of Facebook, because I've known of districts that have just chosen not to engage in any kind of an open discussion forum. And to me, it feels like you're hiding something. You know, we want to build that trust and transparency. So you really want to get that. And, you know, Facebook Live, Facebook videos where you're answering questions. Maybe it's not live, although live is always going to reach more people. That's kind of how this one works. So I hope that helps. Heidi, anything I missed on that one?
Well, the only thing I would say in terms of promotional, it's no more promotional than the in-person meetings that your superintendent or other admin teams are doing, right? You're going to field those questions exactly the same way. You're going to answer the facts. You're going to allow people, they still get to have their opinion. I would suggest, and maybe you already mentioned that, Andrea, and I've lost all contact with reality here, is that somebody else is actually moderating those comments underneath there. Obviously, these two people weren't. And so that things could kind of keep moving along, and or, you know, maybe something defamatory was taken off, just as an aside. So, all right, next creative idea. What else can you do? Because we're running out of time. This was a promotional video. Actually, not promotional. I shouldn't even say it. I just said that, and then you said not promotional. This was a video that Proctor Public Schools had done, and you said it was, who did it, Andrea?
Captivate Media did this video, and they did an awesome job. 60 seconds.
Right, and the important part about that is look at how many people it reached, number one. Number two, that it was a 60-second referendum video. Please don't go on and on and on. Even 4 minutes is too long. Keep it short and sweet. Pick a talking point. Practice it. Practice it in the mirror. Get your superintendent to practice it, whoever it might be. Just the facts, ma'am, right? All right.
Yeah, and this one was done professionally. A lot of the videos we've just shown you were just done locally, you know, with a cell phone. You know, you are investing a lot of dollars into communicating out what the issues are. Some cases, it may be great to grab the experts. Captivate had a 3-minute version of this video and a 1-minute version of this video. The 1-minute version got a lot more traction. We've had districts that have made their own that have been 9 minutes long. They're not going to listen that long, you guys. You can't do that. And so if it's a complicated issue, if you need to showcase the true issues that are going on at your school, for instance, like one of our schools literally could not flush the toilets after 12 o'clock. Like that is an issue in that elementary school. We have to get that across in a good way. Sometimes you want to invest in the professionals, and I love Jake at Captivate Media because they do animated video, and they really know what they're doing because they specialize in schools, but there's a lot of others out there. And somebody just shared a link to a video, and so that's awesome. And then this video link is going to be in your follow-up information too.
Great. Then most important, and we've said this before, so we'll say it again, it's business as usual, right? Your job as the social media person within your school district is to continue to celebrate and connect, and that is more important than ever during a referendum. So you should be posting on a regular basis, and a regular basis is, I would hope, at least 2 times a day, about what is going on in your school district that is wonderful and lovely, and all of those amazing things that happen in each of those classrooms every single day. And about once or twice a week, you're going to post about the referendum within there. Pick a hot time, change it up, maybe one 6 a.m., maybe another time at 6 p.m., test and see. You want to quietly, with every one of these darling photos like the one you're looking at there, remind folks why they would vote yes without ever saying it, right? Most of the time, the people who are following you on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are probably your yes votes anyway, right? We're the moms. It's mostly moms. We know it is, right? Growing number of grandparents, that kind of thing. And you want to continually, with each of those stories, every Facebook post, every tweet, show the value that they're getting by being a taxpayer in your district, right?
I have a question for you, Heidi. When would you start communicating information? Okay, we've got several districts on here that are going to vote in November. We're talking about posting twice a week. You know, what would you be posting right now? And then what's kind of the time schedule in your mind?
I would say about the 8 weeks prior. The 8 weeks prior, and perhaps it's just, you know, it starts out with the first, like the board approved a resolution, right? Then maybe it's the ballot question. And maybe then it's an introductory post, you know, about like, we're going to bring you some more information. Stay tuned for more information, or here's the meeting. I would say 1 to 2 times a week in the 8 weeks leading up to it, right? But you have to remember, it's like, let's say you're in business, and we are in business, right? What are we selling? We're selling all of the amazing, we're selling the value of public education and perhaps private education for some of you who are in there, the value of what's going on in your school district. And I once read this about marketing for a business. My husband happens to be in business. He's a golf pro. He's also underwater today. Anyway, I read this and it stuck with me, that if you're out there using social media to sell something, and you are just putting things out there like, hey, we've got a special on this, hey, we've got a special on that. If you're doing that, you're asking people to do something and they're going to turn you off. They don't want to hear it. So that really this sort of mathematical equation is that for every time you ask for something, you should have 3 other times where you're just sharing something. And I think that that applies to social media with school districts in relationship to referendums or bond votes especially, right? Celebrate, 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 then remind. All right, moving along. It's really important that when hopefully you're monitoring all of your posts. Hopefully you're interacting all the time. You're checking your Facebook page, your Twitter account, you're searching that hashtag. Hopefully that's what you're doing. But you really need to do it when it comes to these referendum posts. Let's pray that nothing ever happens, but the fact is that people like to give their opinions about all sorts of things, right? So you're building trust and transparency by allowing people to comment, as long as it's not defamatory, right? You want to be sure to respond as the school district to those comments where and when appropriate. Caveat, sometimes people come to your aid way before you can. Let that conversation happen sometimes, right? You want to hide or delete offensive comments, but you have to be really careful about that. So proceed with caution. Make sure that if you do choose to delete something, and I would say extreme caution on that, but that if you do choose to do it, that you take a screenshot of it and you keep a folder, a Google folder or something like that of those things. And you have to know when to take it offline. You really, really do, because at some point, and I found this out in a really interesting way working with some of our districts last spring. You know, our account manager would call and say, this so-and-so keeps commenting. I call the superintendent and she goes like this, yes, she lives in the community, small community. Superintendent knows who it is. And she's like, I'm going to give her a call today. Really powerful, very, very powerful. But you want to build the trust and transparency. Back to those regular website updates about the referendum, remember that if somebody has a specific question underneath it, just because you posted about it on Facebook doesn't mean everybody saw all of those points. If they have a specific question, you can always use the link from that page on your website and direct them back to that. Andrea, what was that question?
The question is, have you run into any issues with freedom of speech and comments on a public school page? So I'm gonna just take that. I'm not a lawyer, so you know, obviously you'd want to talk it. But if your lawyer ran your school, you wouldn't even run school buses, right? Because there's always these issues. People have a right to say anything they want on social media, on their own page. We set up a school Facebook page with very noted commenting guidelines that say if you attack our school, if you attack a specific person, if you're bullying, if you're sexist, racist, all that stuff, we reserve the right to remove those comments. Now, they can make those comments on their own Facebook page. We're not telling them they can't put it on Facebook, but we are going to be able to protect this community of information. Now, it doesn't mean that you hide or delete anybody who says vote no, which somebody just said, hey, we've gotten We get a lot of comments. Some are good, some are bad. If they're not violating that commenting guideline, then you're okay. But you should have that commenting guideline very well established. I will communicate out what ours is. I'll give you a link in the follow-up information.
It's on the next slide. It is on the next slide, just so the people can get a visual, but we'll give it to them. And we actually pin this to the top of our pages many times when that particular district goes to referendum. It just gets pinned as a post to the top, and we really, really use these. But we do proceed with extreme caution. Just because somebody says vote no, everybody is entitled to an opinion. It's okay.
Right, and this, somebody just said that our city government was involved in a lawsuit where they're hiding comments because of a constant negative poster, and the city ended up losing this lawsuit. So you definitely want to have that conversation, but whether or not you're going to referendum, or like a vote, or you're just using social media, those negative people can definitely be out there. Of course, it can get even bigger, you know, with these things, but those are things that you have to be prepared to talk about at your school. So that's really good. And then just Stacy had shared, you know, we personally called a few of the really negative comments to help them, inform them better, and we got a great response from that. So that's awesome, and that's what social media is about. It's about being social. It's about having those conversations, and conversations that you maybe never would have had if you weren't, you know, using it. So.
And if you post there that you're, you know, someone would like to reach out to you, you are showing trust and transparency. Everybody else sees that as well who's interacted with that post. And boy, you know what that says is, man, the school district of Wisconsin Dells or you know, Monona Grove is really paying attention, right? They're listening to us. Everybody gets to see that. It's very, very important. All right, moving on because we're running out of time. Okay, now we're closer to, or we're on voting day. This year it's November 6th, as I said yesterday in our team meeting. Happens to be my 29th birthday. Maybe you have a good screen on your computer, maybe you don't. Just go along with my story. Anyway, remind folks to vote. And again, just the facts, right? Perhaps you're going to say something about polling places. Maybe you're just going to say, like this great graphic does, guys, it's voting day, reminding you to vote. I've seen some districts, and we tested this, just a few reminders. Hey, polls are still open, or they're open until 8, and remember, it's the facts only. Moving along, there's a really great example from Almond Bancroft, who went to referendum last spring. This was part of a whole video, and this is linked in here, and it's just these kids where all they're saying is they're just reminding them to vote. Boy, I don't know, I think I'd vote yes, but that's just me, right? Again, it's just the facts. Report the results. Of course you want to report the results of the referendum in a timely manner using social media, especially social media, right? Because it's real time. Again, you may be lucky enough to have a newspaper. Perhaps that newspaper comes out weekly. So then the vote is on a Tuesday. Newspaper doesn't come out until Thursday. It's alive and well. Who knows what's happened in between those two. So be your own media, right? Be your own media. Jump on Facebook Live. Do it in a timely manner. Thank voters regardless of the outcome. The next slide shows that one of our school districts who just went to a referendum in August, Waterloo, Brian went live. No, I'm sorry, didn't go live. He was on video the next morning. He decided to wait until the next morning. I know that in the school district of Reedsburg, we went live that night, much to Tom's chagrin, and that by the next morning, almost 7,000 people had seen that video. There are only 9,000 people who live in Reedsburg. Newspaper wasn't printing for a couple of days. It was a special referendum, therefore it wouldn't necessarily show up underneath a ticker on the television. And I had repeated people say to me in the community, man, we were waiting for you guys to get out there on Facebook. That's because of all of those other things that we had done, right? Clear and consistent communication, celebrating on a regular basis. Moving along. Just a second, you can be ready with these thank you for supporting, you know, the vote pass, or thank you for expressing your votes. Now we move on. Get those ahead of time so that you have them, and get your graphic with referendum results ahead of time. And then it's not a scramble when it comes time to do, you know, to share information. So right. The best defense is a good offense. I'm not sporty, so I don't know if that was correct. All right, next. And most importantly, you want to keep folks updated. You can't just say, hey, can we have your money? Then convince them that, you know, this is the right thing to do for kids, and then say thanks, and then they never hear from you again. That's like a bad breakup. Don't do that. It is important that you keep folks updated. Show them what happened with their taxpayer money. Perhaps it's next steps, groundbreaking ceremonies if you've got a new building or a sports complex that's happening, building updates and other news. One caveat on these, and we are experiencing this here in Reedsburg, is we're posting quite carefully about this because, of course, your no voters didn't go anywhere. They want to now crank off about the new school building. So you have to be really careful. So pay attention any post that has to do with that. Here's a great idea. Fall River went live for their groundbreaking ceremony, and it had a lot of interaction. People were excited about it. This is a really small community where the school is the community is the school, so this is a huge deal for them. Another great update to show is how your staff or community members are involved in the planning process. Here, the middle school staffers are putting some final touches on their ideas about what that building should look like in Chippewa Falls. Next example is weekly video updates. And this isn't the only district who's done this. I think there's another slide after this, right, Andrea? They're just short videos. I think this was Proctor, am I right, is the next video, the next slide, excuse me. They're short. Look how short they are. 55 seconds, 47 seconds, and it's just the superintendent's voice over this. Like, guys, this is what we're up to. This is our new building, that kind of thing. I did also just see one of our other school districts here in Wisconsin, Belleville. They did a live tour with their project manager. It was so well received. She did an outstanding job. And then second to last but not least, other referendum approved projects. Show them what happened. So this one was the secure entrance. That was part of our referendum there. And we have an associate principal showing the new way that parents and other community members will enter a school building. We're showing folks where their money went. Caveat to this one, we did take a few comments underneath it about, whoa, because people want to crank off, right? And so, we just responded in a nice way, or let that comment stand. And then last but not least, and this is one that we're testing, but it came up in a meeting that I was in not too long ago with a different district, and that is afterwards, as that building project, yep, there it is. As that building project is really underway, showing a local connection. I think this is really important. This is a prototype of a post that we're going to do here in Reedsburg. So this gentleman is working on the new building, but he happens to be an alum and a community member. And I think that you want to constantly remind people of, like, we're closing the loop. We are all in this together. So there you go. Andrea, I think we had a few more slides. Yes. Yeah,
I just wanted to close out. We're straight up at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. So I know some of you have to go, but we're going to take more questions. So please do that. Social School for EDU is about helping create great social media. And like we said, it's all about having a good presence before you even start. As you can see, Heidi and I are pretty passionate about being able to help schools, and Belleville is actually one of the schools that we're helping through a coaching program. But if you're not looking at your metrics on a routine basis, we look at metrics every single week for more than 70 schools that we serve, either in direct management, coaching, or we do have a measuring package. And so if you're not looking at those things and sharing that can be an issue. All I want to do is put a plug in. We have a great measurement package. It's $1,000 for the whole year. With that, you get weekly tracking of your social channels, a quarterly report card, and a quarterly phone call with Heidi or I to look at your report card, to do training opportunities, to discuss ideas. And, who wouldn't want us in your back pocket, right? So you try to bring that passion to your school. So I just kind of want to put that out there. It's a newer program that we have. We have about half a dozen that are on that measurement package. We've got another half a dozen that are coaching with us. We serve schools in a lot of ways, and this is our mission. We have to make the positive so loud that the negative is almost impossible to hear. So this is going to be my final slide. What other questions might you have? Please chat those in the chat bar. I just want to again say and stress, and I know we got kind of short at the end, but communicating after the ballot it's so important. And I know so many of you say, well, for like 6 months, nothing happens because all you're doing is meetings and planning, and that's not really exciting. But like we said, like in Chippewa, we're trying to post at least twice a month on what's happening, even though like physically you can't see anything. but there's all that behind the scenes stuff. People need to understand that you are working on it and keep that because, you know, their taxes are affected. So, you know, just being creative. And I hope a lot of these ideas that we shared are something that you can immediately take back to your school as ideas as you plan. Because you definitely do want to plan going forward, but you don't want to have to just start from scratch. And so again, this kind of to-do list from Heidi is exactly what we go through when we work with a school. So what other questions might you have? I see some people falling off. Any other, while we're waiting for additional questions, Heidi, anything else kind of to complete everything that you want to share?
Well, I just think, I'm reiterating, don't reinvent the wheel, right? Especially if you're working with a third party and perhaps they've come up with, let's say, to begin with that press release. That is the perfect jumping off point of going, this is post number 1, here's post number 2, here's post number 3, because they're breaking that down, right? And they're using, hopefully, clear and concise language, right? Ask those folks for those JPEGs or create, you know, one that says referendum FAQ and use it every single time that you're posting about it, that kind of thing. But it doesn't need to be overwhelming. If you're already communicating it in other ways, think, how can I use that in a soundbite piece of information in a Facebook post, in a tweet, on Instagram, that kind of thing.
Awesome. And I don't see any other questions popping up, probably because it is September 5th and it's a busy time of year. All of you guys are busy. But while a lot of thank yous. So Heidi, very, very powerful stuff. Look for your inbox. If not this afternoon, it'll probably be in your inbox tomorrow. And then we will follow up with kind of a nice little checklist format for you. But you'll have this recording. You'll be able to listen to it. And the best thing is, guys, share this with other folks, right? Share this with other people in your district, because this could be very, you know, helpful as you work as a team of kind of understanding. And again, everybody thinks they know social media and what would work. Posting every day on your school page about a referendum is not a good use of your school's page.
Yeah, you're gonna turn people off if you do that, guys. You're asking for something. You need to show every single day, not just during the referendum, the value, right? Why your district, your school is so amazing. And you're communicating in lots of other methods about your referendum. The social media part to me is icing on the cake, but very, very crucial icing. As Tom, my former superintendent, says, he goes, I hate to think of what our referendum results would have been without the addition of social media. P.S. We passed it 70% to 30%. But that's because everybody did their part, and there were lots of steps that happened ahead of time, and we layered.
Yeah, and then we got a question, Adriana, but of course somebody else answered it. When do you start, you know, posting regularly? About 8 weeks, and sometimes, you know, that 8 to 4 down to just a month before the webinar, or before the referendum, maybe that's, you know, at least once a week. But then definitely when it gets closer, it's maybe twice a week. I want to share one bonus strategy for you that we're using actually in one of our schools is we're doing a test post.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that, Heidi.
Yeah, so we have a district who they know they have a very strong no community and that they're very loud. And they happen to not be loud about the amount of money, but rather the restructuring of buildings that might be happening. People get cranked when all of a sudden their kindergartner is not going to school with their 5th grader, right? And I understand that. I get that. People get very passionate about it. And so what we've decided, part of our strategy is just to dip our toe into the referendum pool, if you will. And we're going to just put out a really nice post that says, hey, save the date. We're going to referendum November 6th. And then we're going to see what kind of bears and wolves might come out and where it goes, right? And just test it. And perhaps if it's so vocal, right, you have to know that social media doesn't need, you may have to back up. And if that is the case, then perhaps the only other post we'll do is that it's voting day or that voting day is coming up. But you've got to know your audience, right? You need to know what is the best strategy. You know, like at Wisconsin Dells, Terry Slack, the superintendent, has been making the rounds to each of those townships. There's like 1 million townships that make up Wisconsin Dells. I don't understand it either, but I'm also directionally challenged. And Terry knows that he has to, like, you know, chew the fat and drink coffee with every one of these groups, that kind of thing. He gets that. That's very unique to their district. Might be different for yours. So don't be afraid to maybe just test the waters if you think it's going to be, could be ugly, right? That kind of thing. But whether you're going to post about the referendum or not, you need to use this very powerful communication tool to help celebrate your students and connect your community to your schools. They need to know what's going on in there, because in the absence of real information, they are more than happy to make up a story that's probably not true.
And probably negative. One last thought, and it's, I'll definitely, it's Adriana, look like it's already looking yucky. One last tip that we haven't talked about, just in regards to a referendum or bond issue, the most powerful group that you need to communicate with is actually your staff. Because your staff is out in your community, and guess what they're getting asked about? Well, should I vote yes for this? Or, you know, what is this all about? You really want to have a concerted effort of how are we informing our staff, and how are we challenging them to be to maybe on their own time do part of supporting the school. And so I know that there have been some really unique and creative ways of having a plan at a leadership level of getting information out. But then it's how do our individual building principals or teachers talk about that information? And again, a little bit beyond social media, but there are some parents or some other, staff members that on their own time, they use social media to help. And there are some fine lines with school board members and all of that stuff. But just making sure that they're well informed, I think, is an important key. And we didn't cover that at all today, but
yeah, I think you definitely want to be sure. I mean, I know that within the school district of Reedsburg, we made sure that any mailer went out also went to the staff. Any postcard that went out also went to the staff. We had a number of meetings. We directed them back to the website. We made sure, because there was, and I experienced that just here of like, how could you not know that piece of information? But guess what? Our staff members are so busy, and they may not live in the community, but they certainly are seen as the face of the community when somebody wants to say, why are we closing that school or something like that? Make sure that they have that great information so that they can also answer with just the facts or go farther if they're comfortable with that, right?
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Awesome webinar. Great tips. A lot of great feedback. I love it that, there's tips here that you can put in place right away. Social School for EDU is not about pie in the sky stuff. We want to give you stuff that you can take action on. And if you have additional questions, you reach out. But stay tuned to your email, because you will be getting the recording. You'll be getting a lot of these supporting pieces of information that will help you. If you're not going to a referendum or bond right away, you definitely want to mark this, but it will be up on our website as well for you to reference later. Heidi, thank you so much for sharing with everybody today. Very valuable stuff. Now you can see why I love Heidi so much. She's funny, and she does look like she's 29, by the way, and somebody said true story, so but everybody have a great week. Good luck. Let us know if you come up with something really cool for your school and it works. Please tell us, because then we'll tell other people. We're all one big happy family when we find strategies that work. We just want to help kids, right? We want to help educate our kids. We want to help give them the tools to succeed, and that's what it's kind of all about. So you guys have a great day. I'm going to shut down the recording, and we will see you next time. We're having an awesome webinar next month, so make sure to tune into that. Shane Haggerty will be talking about big campaigns, so creating great campaigns. So have a great day.